So Danny, for this one, you're going to be finishing up your project for U.S. history. So again, what we've been doing is an inquiry cycle where we've been choosing a topic, formulating a higher level historical inquiry question. That was 4.6. 4.7, we then went out and found credible sources that will probably answer our question. We did a source evaluation sheet just to make sure they were good, and then we cited them for a working bibliography. The next step in the research process is to actually do the research, to go through and read through your sources. And part of that is going to be determining which sources are actually really good. Whenever you do a working bibliography, what you did in 4.7, you're probably going to find more sources than you're actually going to use for whatever you're doing. So what this next handout is going to be based on how to gather the evidence that's going to be best for you to answer your question. So first step, of course, is to open up the handout, to go to our class, 2019-20, period 1, Academy U.S. History and English with Ms. Ruiz and myself. And this time, when you go to Unit 5, which says Unit 4, How to Fight Injustice, I want you to go to checkpoint 4 instead of checkpoint 3, and I want you to open up 4.8. You're going to ignore 4.9. That was one of the COVID casualties. We're not going to worry about 4.9, but I want you to open up 4.8. Once you do, it's going to look like this. So again, you're going to be conducting the research, you're going to gather your evidence, and then you're going to answer your question. You're going to figure out, how do my sources answer my question? So the first step is always to, like I said, keep your research question close. It's super easy to forget what it is that you're actually looking up, especially when you get lost in reading all the information that you get through. So I just had already copied and pasted my question from 4.7, so I'm putting it right there. How did Betty Friedan, Gloria Steinem, and Billie Jean King similarly fight for women's rights in the 1970s and 80s? So you put that at the top, and that's going to help guide you. Well, you found 4 sources in 4.7. For 4.8, I want you to choose 2 of them that are really good. So you find the sources where you're like, wow, that one really gave me a lot of good information. This is the one that I really like. And so you're going to choose 2 of your sources to actually read through, put your citation there from 4.7, and then you're going to record evidence. And again, only evidence that helps to answer your question. And then once you find at least 8 pieces of evidence from your source, you're then going to give a 2 to 3 sentence summary of how your source answers the question. So as I'm reading through, again, here's the source that we cited in 4.7. As you're reading through your source, you want to look for the answer to your question. So I need to know, in order to find out how they similarly did it, I need to know how each of these women fought for it. So for this one, we're looking up Betty Friedan. So as I'm reading, I want to know, or actually, yeah, this is Betty Friedan. I want to know, how did Betty Friedan fight for women's rights during the women's liberation movement? What is it that she did? So I'm going to read through, and I'm going to write down facts that I find that are going to help answer my question. So even in the first paragraph here, I have a bunch that I think that they're actually going to go through. But in 1963, Friedan wrote The Feminine Mystique, which historians consider to be a contribution to the feminist movement. She also helped establish 2 organizations that advocated for women's rights, the National Organization for Women, and the National Association for the Repeal of Abortion Laws. She also is arguing for legalizing access to abortion and contraception, and her advocacy helped advance reproductive rights. Wow, they're actually going to really give you probably more information on this, but that's a lot of facts that we can write down. So we can put 1963, Feminine Mystique, not 1960E, Feminine Mystique. Did I spell feminine wrong? Of course I did. Book on women's rights. So again, notice how I didn't write all of that sentence. I just wrote the actual fact. So in 1963, she wrote Feminine Mystique, and it's a book on women's rights. She also created the National Organization of Women. Now, in addition, she created the National Association for the Repeal of Anti-Abortion Laws. Let me make sure. Always got to check to make sure. Oh, just of abortion laws, not anti-abortion laws. Of abortion laws. N-A, what was it, R-A-L or something like that? NARAL. Yeah, NARAL. So again, notice how I'm not writing everything. I'm just writing the facts that pertain to, here's what she did in order to fight for women's rights. So you're going to find, this is 3 examples of evidence. You're going to read through the whole source. I'm not going to do that with you on the screen. That'll take a very long time, and I don't think you necessarily need me to do that. But you're only going to find the information that is relevant. For example, this source goes into her background. Where was she? Who is she? Right? Now, I mean, okay, it's great that she had siblings and she experienced anti-Semitism and all that stuff, but that's not necessarily relevant to what my topic is. So I'm not going to put information from there. So what I am going to look for are examples of the things that she did in order to fight for women's rights. So after losing her job at UE News, she began freelance writing for magazines. And so she conducted a survey on the quality of their lives. So it looks like she's surveying classmates, and particularly for looking at the results and how her female classmate, well, I guess Smith College would have been all females, but she was not pleased by the results, which spurred her to write about the challenges women faced in the workplace and in higher education. So she's doing more things. That would be another example of facts. So there you go. And then she wrote The Feminine Mystique. So there you go again, which was all about the survey that she did. So that would be an example of gathering facts. Once you've gathered your facts, you then want to just give me a 2 to 3 sentence summary of how those facts show an answer to the question. So I always like to use the question as a sentence frame. So I would say Betty Friedan, not Betty Friedan fought for women's rights by, well, writing about the experience of women in the workplace and in higher education, and organizing, so I'll put creating organizations that worked towards women's rights. That would be an example of how she did that based off of the facts that I have up there. So you're going to do this for, again, 2 of your sources. So you're going to choose 2 of your sources that answer your question, and make sure that you can try to answer as much of the question as you can. You're going to put the citation there. You're only going to record evidence, just facts, not whole sentences, just facts. And then you're going to summarize how the facts answer your question in 2 to 3 sentences. And that's how you do 4.8. Once you're done with that, you share it with me. I'll look over it, give you any feedback. If you do it up to the standards, then you're completely done with this history project. And for you, specifically, Danny, you are then done with U.S. history and you've earned your 10 credits. So again, if you have any questions on this, email me and let me know. Otherwise, good luck.